Okay. Good morning to everyone, and good morning also to all the people who are following our conference from internet via web streaming. It's a great pleasure for me today to talk to you about the results from our online debate. For the last 3 weeks, people from different parts of the world participated in several discussions that took place in different communication channels along internet. And I can tell you that the results are very, very important. And thousands of people really visited all these online environments to find out about our discussions. And more than 100 people contributed in this online debate. We have 3 key topics. The first one is the quality, and I will show you now the results that we got. Many important questions and many important issues emerged from this discussion. The first one is that quality assurance of education it has not only one dimension, and it is multidimensional. So if we want, let's say, to create a model about a quality model, we should take under consideration all the dimensions of quality, because each of these dimensions have connections with each other and has a direct impact. What I want to say in simple words, we must think about teacher support, we must think about the curriculum, about student support, okay, to make it more clear to you. Also, the most important component for quality in education in the digital era, as it emerged from the discussions that we had, it is teacher training. So we cannot have equality in education in the digital era if we don't have well-trained teachers. And of course, we have also some important barriers that we need to overcome, and those are the rapid tech changes that we have to follow, but difficult to evaluate all the time, the fast updated info, lack of personalized learning in systems in massive numbers of online courses, and of course, economical problems we all have in Europe, and lack of well-organized, let's say, initiatives. So we need to be more organized and to make things happen. I would like to say a big thank you to all our contributors online, and probably many are here, as I know, and many of them, they are following now from the internet. So for now, I will present this first topic, and then we will continue. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Maria. We won't have silence for 10 minutes while you're voting. I'm pleased to say that Anka Mulder is the Vice President of the Delft Technical University. She was President of the Global Open Education Consortium, is a member of the EDX University Advisory Board and of the Strategy Committee of Sorbonne Universities. Anka has been active in innovation of higher education for 10 years with a special interest in open and online education. Anka, your university is already active in online education. Do you believe it's had an effect on quality? And can you share some of the experiences, please?
Yeah, well, thank you for that question. And good morning, everybody, by the way. I do believe that it is having an effect on the quality of education. I think, well, we've been active in this field for 10 years, but very, very active for about 2 years. So we only have preliminary findings, but I would like to share some of them with you. Perhaps one thing I would like to start with is that we have 20,000 students on our campus. We're an ordinary university, a regular campus university. But we also have 300,000 students online. So those are huge numbers, I think. And we've been quite surprised about how popular our online courses have been. And I always think that when you talk about numbers, you have to look behind the numbers, because behind every number, there's an individual student, a learner. And one of the stories about one of those learners I would like to share with you is this one. We run a very popular online course on solar energy, and people from all around the world have followed that course. It's a technical, quite difficult course. I think we had about 80,000 students active in that course. And one of the students lived in a village far away, not in the Netherlands, but far away. Let's call him George. And George sent an email to his professor saying that before he took the course, his village had about 2 hours of electricity per day. And after having taken the course, he was able to work on the system in his village. And now the village almost has 24/7 electricity. So those are amazing things behind those big numbers. And this is what I would call quality. That's the important thing about quality. But perhaps some other things. One of our experiences on campus is with MOOCs, but also with blended education. So how do you improve education for your own students on campus? And the lecturer of this solar energy course just sent me some preliminary results from his blended course on the campus. And he said that the pass rates for his course had gone up from 71% last year to 89% this year, which is, for my university, quite high. And also, the grades had gone up from 6.5 on a scale from 1 to 10. Students now had a 7.1. He was able to teach 30% more stuff, more material in his course than he had done before. And the students really appreciated this type of course and the way it was delivered. So I know this is not scientific research yet, but so these are preliminary findings, but still I think those are encouraging things. Now the next thing I think which is very important for quality is visibility. You can imagine that if you have a lecturer who teaches 50,000 or 80,000 students, who has his or her peers looking over his or her shoulders to see what they're doing, that really encourages you to improve your pedagogy, to improve your materials, and to produce really good, high-quality education. And I will keep it short, so I would just like to make one final point, because this sort of visibility, this is a reason to improve quality, but the visibility also leads to something else, which is, I think, competition. Now, if you work for a university, you know that there is competition in research. But competition in education, at least at my university, is something new. But you can imagine that if education is online, if you suddenly have 300,000 users, if your peers see what you are doing, that also can increase competition between professors and also between institutions. Now, competition in education doesn't always have a positive connotation, but I think, to be honest, I think it's a good thing, because it will be a driver for quality of higher education, but also other levels of education. Now, what I notice is that if you look in online higher education, the scene is dominated by American universities. And I love American universities. I work together with them a lot. I think they're very good at innovating higher education and pedagogy at the moment, in higher education especially. But I also think it's not necessary that we don't take our space as European institutions. So, I heard the Commissioner say, let's get started. I fully agree. But I also think that we have to increase our speed. Thank you.
Thank you, Anka. I need to explain to everybody in the audience here and online as well that our panelists are under very strict instructions. I've given them only 5 minutes each for their presentations. So if what they say seems a bit brief, it's simply there as a stimulus for the discussion that will follow. So I'm the one imposing their rules, not them. Giovanna Carnevali is an architect and director of the Fundació Mies van der Rohe institution that organizes the European Union Prize for Contemporary Architecture, the Mies van der Rohe Award. Giovanna, the teaching of architecture continues to be very complete academic training, and we could say more than a skills gap in schools, there's an overqualified offer. Nevertheless, the lack of economic skills with regards to managing a studio and its consequent projects is definitely a skills gap for architects. How can we, through increasing the quality and relevance of learning, try and reduce this gap and become more competent?
Well, thank you very much, and sorry for my cold. First of all, I'm coughing all the time. Maybe I was the one here coughing constantly. Yes, you give very strictly time, so they say 30 seconds to present yourself, as I just only tell my name, surname, and what I'm doing. And then I try to resume in 5 minutes also this question, which is bothering me and bugging me because I'm an architect as well. And I think this is the main problem of we as architects. The way, let's say, how to answer to this question, which actually I would like to also open this question to all of you that you are experts, by the way, is that I can explain you a little bit of story. A story not about education, but at least how we as architects are being educated and what maybe our skills are. First of all, as you said, the European Union Prize for Contemporary Architecture, Mies van der Rohe Award, is running since 25 years, and it acquires already more than 3,000 works, which represent the biggest archive of contemporary architecture in Europe, which is a lot. We have a very big cultural heritage to export. We award not only buildings with different aesthetics, and we award everything that with different programs, like business building, educational buildings, housing, infrastructure, commercials, and so on. We reward the excellence and the quality in architecture. And these attributes are intrinsic to any scale and to any program. This is what Mies van der Rohe had said, and I think this is very important. These principles have never changed and will never change. The principle of education and architecture has always been the same. As architects, we build environments where we live. We build societies. We don't just build buildings. We just serve the world around you. I mean, maybe somehow of you decide the city where you live, but definitely you decide the street where you want to live, the house where you want to live, or the apartment. You want to decide your own furniture. We live in our offices. Practically, we spend most of the time in offices. We work in the streets, and also sometimes we even visit the cities in holidays. And our cities are changes, and they are a reflection of the changes that are happening in our society. And architects are reflecting these changes. Technology makes our cities differences. Well, I've been hearing also our ministry, and also before, there were many speakers that talk about how these technologies interrelate in our way of living. We go around with our GPS. We cannot go in any other place if we don't have our GPS. And we explore our city with apps. And we are part of it as architects. We build it. And actually, yes, architects are really fan of technology. In the architectural language, we are pioneer by using the computer since the early 1990s where AutoCAD appeared. And we started using this, AutoCAD and other programs to shapes and floating surfaces and so on. But now it's become a standard. And maybe the digital architecture create also an architectural style. But this is not the place, probably, to talk about it. But perhaps I would say the greatest contribution that technology has made in education not only in architecture, but in general, is the incredible amount of data that we have at our disposal. Now we have more information than ever. Even when I was studying, there was not a computer. I mean, I don't consider myself so old, but yeah, we have an incredible access, an incredible range of data in any time. Just think, I was making a calculation. In my iMac, I can store 80,000 books. 80,000, so how many libraries can host? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I remember when I went to the libraries and then I was searching for books. Now 86,000 only in my bag. But the problem for me is how to manage this information. And how we can encourage the creativity and the curiosity. Before we said that the creativity is a muscle. I completely agree with that. But how, with this amount of data, how we can stimulate this? Well, what is certainly true is that we are now capable of managing data and inputs simultaneously. There are only 5 seconds left, but I want to say that architecture, just maybe 1 minute after, but architecture is, I think, the most appealing disciplines I ever had, not because I'm an architect, but we reconcile many disciplines. We are mixing many disciplines when we are studying architecture, and not only the technical detail. So yes, we maybe are hyper-qualified because we have many specialties. In the last 50 years, they have been emerging town planning and landscaping, restoration, architectural design, and history, and critics, and so on. And also the number of PhD. European PhD, they have been made in the last 10 years, let's say, just before Bologna. And they're developing in Europe, and then they were mixed in different disciplines. Architecture with economists, with engineer. And I'm an example of that generation. This hyperqualification is a relevance of learning. That is my point. I think maybe it could be strange and paradoxical to you, but maybe there are so many well-known architects whose offices are going to be broke. Just imagine, maybe you don't know the name of the office, but maybe you know the Erasmus Bridge, maybe you know the Istituto del Mondo Arabe in Paris, maybe you don't know the architect who made the European flag with the different colors, but these are operated with a deficit, economical deficit. So that's the point, how we can manage, we architect, how we can improve our skill gap, which is the economical, how we handle economical, either our offices and then also projects, in order to be more effective and then also more competitive. Thank you.
Giovanna, thank you very much. Thank you for competing with my looks to wind up as well. That's very kind of Roberto Viola is the European Commission Deputy Director General for Communications, Networks, Content and Technology. Roberto, we see significant interest of IT companies in the education field. How do we make education fit for the digital economy and society?
Thank you, and thank you for inviting me, and me being here is testifying that the two DGs, the DG that is organized this beautiful event, and us are working together in order to advance and deliver better education for the digital society. You heard it many ways today, I mean, in many different forms from many different speakers. It is changing, everything is changing. Let me bring my vision to this, which is absolutely complementary to all the others. It's a digital revolution, it's an industrial revolution. As every industrial revolution, you have advancement, but you have also pain, and you have change. You have inequality, you have people losing their jobs, middle class getting a little bit poorer, but probably, hopefully, we are about to have a better society. That I'm very much convinced. Now, and how we make sure this is delivering a better society. I see 3 streams. I see innovation, I see inclusion, and I see digital skills as it being important. innovation is not simply high-tech or the interest of companies. I mean, in the past, politicians used to think that to make education digital, it was simple, just buy a computer and give it to the pupils. The only thing that this brought was a bit more money to computer manufacturers, but no quality education at all. You need to change the classroom. That means innovation. You need to make the classroom an hyper-connected space. And this is not, this becomes a better or a worse classroom. It's completely different from the past. It's a window to a world which is a world of cooperation, collaboration, a world where people bring their imagination and creativity together with others. Probably there are less and less pupils these days which are able to play an instrument, which are able to write a letter. I'm afraid the world is changing. So it is not a judgment of value that things should change. Things change because the world is becoming co-creative, collaborative, imaginative in a different way. And the classroom has to change in this way. So connecting the classrooms to the internet, using, 3D printing, using images, using games to teach, and teaching different skills is a sign of the times, and is also a way to bring our pupils closer and closer and fit for this industrial revolution. The other element is inclusion. As I said, we see the rising ghost of inequality everywhere in Europe, everywhere in the world, and all the bad consequences of this. Education is the best answer to rising inequality in the digital world. It is I wouldn't say the sole, but one of the most important answers to this. Inclusion means, first of all, to make sure that everyone participates to the digital revolution. So, for instance, every classroom connected online. So, and this is not a given in Europe. Believe me, there are many, many areas in which internet has not yet arrived. There are many, many classrooms which are not connected to the internet. So I really welcome and offer all the support of the DG Connect to the initiative that Silvia Costa has announced to host a day in Parliament where connectivity and satellite connectivity will be discussed, how to bring connections everywhere in Europe to every classroom. This is really a very good initiative, and we will absolutely give our support. But of course, just being connected to internet is not enough. Another element of inclusion is to make sure that inclusion is about the teachers being able to understand the digital revolution. Not all teachers are digital natives. They need to be part of this. So teaching the teachers, as was evoked by Lord Partner, is very important. It's one of the most important things to make sure that there's inclusion in this game. And the other important point is gender equality. By having better education, by making sure that everyone participates in every social class and every gender and women are part of ICT learning, it's very important. We still see that there's a gender gap when it comes to ICT skills. Boys are slightly more digitally educated than women. But this is simply because this is the structure of the society. There's nothing to do about the gender itself. So one of the key issues, and that has been recognized by the World Economic Forum, to get equality when it comes to gender is to make sure the education system recognizes this and allows also not only, techie boys, but everyone to go and to be inspired by digital technology. The last point I want to make is about skills. Skills for participating as an active participant, so in the job market in this new world. And digital skills are fundamental again. And we have a shortage of skills. So we have this paradox right now in Europe. We have, as it was evoked, a member state that is basically composed by unemployed young people, and we have hundreds of thousands of jobs in the ICT which are unfilled. So this is the paradox, and really gives you the size and the type of the problem we have, of the mismatch of a society that normally has a reaction time, which is slow as every social change, and I mean technology and the advancement that is disruptive, and really, I mean, changes everything. So this mismatch, you find it in the total difference, which is between the demand for a job and the offer for a job. And we have to fill this gap. We have to quickly fill this gap. So we have to make sure that the right skills are not only given to the young people, but to every worker at every age. Because, I mean, the job, our career is going to be very long. Life expectancy is going to be, these are good news, higher and higher. And the bad news is that we are asked to work and work and work because the pension system cannot withstand this. So all this brings me to the point that we need to work more on jobs and on digital jobs. And we do this thanks to also to the participation of the ICT industry, to come back to your question, with the Ground Coalition for Skills and Jobs. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Roberto. Now, because we are running quite a bit late on our schedule, and I'm sure you would like to have a bit of a coffee break and a loo break as well, I would normally ask some questions at this point, but I'm going to invite you to ask some questions instead. But while I'm giving the opportunity for the microphones to get out to where you are, let me just check first of all with Maria. Have we had any poll results yet?
Not yet.
We don't have any poll results yet. Okay. Well, perhaps as soon as we have the poll results, you can let me know, and then we'll come to those. So coming to the audience, is there anybody who would like to ask a question? Please, if they could just put their hands up. It's a bit difficult for me to see from up here. I'd sooner get questions from the floor than, there's one out there. If I could just, yes, there's a microphone being handed. If I could just ask you to give your name and your position, please, before you ask your question, and if you're directing it at a particular panelist. Thank you.
Yeah. My name is Christian Stracke from Germany. I'm the Managing Director of Telit Research Institute and co-founder of ICOR, International Community for Open Research and Open Education.
Thank you.
And my question is going maybe to all of you, because you all have touched that topic. That's why I'm wondering who wants to be the first answer, giving the first answer on that. It's about the quality. I believe that quality is key. Independently on the innovations, technologies, we have to make sure that future education and learning opportunities are meeting the needs of the learners. And that could be facilitated by technology and innovations, but first of all, by high quality education. And I was wondering how you envision to make sure meeting high quality in future digital education. Of course, there is a need to change education towards digital education. My question to you is how to ensure high quality.
Bruce?
I'll start if you like, yeah, sure. I think what people have acknowledged, and certainly John Hattie's research would emphasise that our biggest problem, number one, well, firstly, let's acknowledge that it's the impact of quality teaching, that above all, that it impacts on student achievement. And within that, it's the variability across schools, across systems that's the problem. So we have some exceptional teachers within a school, but to get consistency of quality across a school is the problem. And I think there's an opportunity from the digital environment that comes from transparency. I think that what we need to be looking at are more ways in which we have the ability for teachers to share practice, and I mentioned that when I talked about the way we organise schools. Probably the most innovative, people say to me, what's the most innovative thing you've seen in schools around the world? And they're usually pretty stunned when I say it's got nothing to do with technology. It's got to do with teachers sharing practice, teachers observing practice, teachers working together about shared practice, and that's what's improving quality. Example I'd give you, David Perkins' work out of Harvard on instructional rounds is one example of it. But also he's done a lot of work in other places, including the UK and the US. And I think what we see, there's the opportunity then for the digital environment to give us a platform whereby we can have shared observations and shared experiences, very much in extending on the way that David was talking about. And I think we're only at the tip of the iceberg in doing that.
Anka?
I totally agree with Bruce. That's the point I made earlier on as well. It's about transparency and visibility. I think that will help us increase the quality of education. And I mean, you can also think about other things like accommodating different learning styles from students or improving your materials. But there's one thing I would just like to add, because that you said something about it's not only about online. I think that was your point, and that I totally agree with as well. I mean, this conference is about the digital era and about online education, but online is a means, it's not a goal, and quality should be the goal. Yeah.
Thank you. I've just heard as well that we have the poll results. So let me come over to Maria here.
Before we discuss about the poll results,
yes,
we can also we have here some nice messages and
lovely
questions.
Let's hear those
from people. So one question: how can we manage the huge amounts of knowledge and data that we now have access to?
That was an interesting point, actually, that was touched on by Giovanna in the discussion there about new ways now of managing the huge amounts of data that exist. Do we have another?
Yes. A very nice one here. It says, pedagogy is too much about telling instead of asking. Think web-based customization, it is all about utility.
Interesting point there. Would anybody like to comment on that?
Reinforces the point, yeah, that I was making before, and I think I think we've got to be fair again to teachers. I was going to ask Anka the question about what the point we didn't touch on was teacher training and pre-service training and post-service training. That I don't know that yet we're seeing the higher education institutions think in that way. I mean, I think much of the pedagogies that is still evident in the higher education institutions are preparing teachers for teaching in the 20th century, not the 21st.
Right.
And I would hope that we see a shift there, because that's what's going to enable them then to take that perspective with their own students.
You wanted to ask the question of Anka? Anka?
I was just thinking, I wonder where the problem lies, huh? Because Lord Putnam, can I say, I just really admire your pink socks, by the way. Very courageous, a lord with pink socks. I wonder where the problem lies, because Lord Putnam said something about, he showed a sheet of all the examples of teachers all around Europe using digital materials, all kinds of, and I see that also at my university. And perhaps we don't always have a policy for it or whatever, but they do it. So I'm not actually sure if it's teachers who are the problem. But if I look at institutions and certainly at governments, I think we're so slow to act. That we have one guest here in the room with whom I've worked in the United States, and together he was one of the people, together with President Obama, to put $2 billion in open educational resources for community colleges, mostly, I think. And I mean, those are big steps, and I wonder which steps we are taking here in Europe. But perhaps I'm being too blunt.
Giovanna, may I ask you a question? We've talked
but
a bit...
perhaps we could, that's also, I think, a question for my colleague.
Go ahead, Roberto.
Yeah. I would say there are two issues here. The first is we have to agree on the metrics. I mean, that's very important because when speaking about quality or speaking about skills, I think we need new metrics. For instance, you touched about the way universities are ranked in the world by 2 or 3 gatekeepers. I mean, the European Commission is trying to a little bit work on university ranking, having a different metrics, a much more inclusive, a more 360-degree way of looking at things. For instance, things like, I mean, the average quality of the teachers, the average education of the teachers, if universities have inclusion policies, these are things which are, of course, not counted in those kind of rankings where they look at how much they gain the day after they out of the college or things like this, or how many papers are published sometimes with index, which I fail to understand. But I believe this is very important to have a metrics. That's very important. The other point which is very important is to recognize that Europe is not the same from north to south. I mean, there are huge problems when it comes to countries which today struggle in finding the means and in finding the ways of teaching the workforce, the teacher workforce, which is very large. And I mean, you cannot just replace one day with another a completely new workforce. So don't be too much, don't think that just the vision of the people in this room or the people in the top of the league universities that are always online is the picture of Europe. The picture of Europe, it's also another one of many, many teachers that don't use internet, don't know about ICT, and they struggle, I mean, with everyday life problems, which is lack of means, lack of possibilities. So we also have to bring Europe at the same speed. This is very important.
Thank you, Roberto. We do have the digital poll results now. There they are up on the board for everyone. Let me get my board as well. I don't know how you voted, but a fairly decisive result there for everyone. That is a point, unfortunately, where I'll have to wind up this particular panel because of our time constraints. So my apologies for not getting to more people to ask questions, but we do have the rest of the day for that. During today, we hope that you'll take some time to visit a replica, it's already been mentioned, of the Future Classroom Lab, which is just outside. It's normally a permanent part of the European SchoolNet offices in Brussels. With the help of 21 of its industry partners and innovative teachers from across Europe, European SchoolNet has reproduced the 6 learning zones of its Future Classroom Lab as a replica here at the conference so that you can see and also have some hands-on experience of how teachers in Europe are currently making innovative use of learning technologies. As I mentioned, when you go out, that is off over to the left-hand side there. The time now is 11:48, so we're running. So we should be coming back from coffee just now. So if I could ask you to cut down the coffee break, please, to 20 minutes. And we'll see you back here in 20 minutes' time for the next panel. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.